Okay. 7th try. All right.
It's only the second, but
I know. It feels like the 7th. Okay. We are here with another Mesa County Liberty Report. And with me today I have Robert Ballard. He is running for Mesa County Clerk and Recorder. And I'm just going to ask him a few questions and just kind of let him, tell the citizens of Mesa County, how he will do as the county clerk. Do you want to say anything to introduce yourself, I guess?
Just thank you for having me on this. I think it's really important that the community hears from the candidates, especially when it comes to our county clerk's office. A lot of people do have concerns over it, so I appreciate you giving me this opportunity.
For sure. And so you're a Libertarian. You're the head of the local Libertarian Party.
I'm actually the treasurer
Okay,
of the
got it,
Libertarian Party. Somebody's got to handle the finances, right? So
Got it.
I took that burden on.
Gotcha. How did you become a Libertarian?
I think I've always been a Libertarian at heart, but I never was affiliated with the Libertarian Party until the last few years because I didn't feel as though the Libertarian Party had the traction to do the things that I felt needed to be done. So I politicked a lot with the Republican Party until I finally decided, somebody needs to give that party the traction, and I'm probably the one to do it.
Got it. And then as far as running for clerk and recorder, like what brought you to that?
Well, I think we all saw how all the national politics just kind of came raining down on us here in 2021 with the clerk and recorder's office. And I felt as though it doesn't matter if it was going to be a Republican or a Democrat that got elected into the office, people were going to have problems. People were going to have a hard time trusting whoever was in there. I recognized that this office really needed leadership, and I want to be that leader. I've got 13 years in the military. I know what it's like to be responsible for millions of dollars of equipment, to make decisions that carry the weight of our nation's national defense. And I am also a business owner, so I understand the regulatory burden that comes from some of these county level offices. So,
Yeah, if we could lower the regulatory burden, that'd be great.
Yes, and I get that all the time, and surprisingly enough, the county clerk's office does have some input on that, so it's
Nice.
it's important.
That's good to hear. And then what have you done? What have you done to prepare for the clerk's office?
I've been working real hard. Just about a year now, been an elections judge. I've been in that office asking questions, building relationships with the team that's in there, which, by the way, we have a fantastic team, literally an award-winning team that just won an award from the County Clerks Association and given to them by the county commissioners. Building relationships with them, learning how our election system works, and developing ideas on how we can improve it.
Got it. And then how do you feel, with concerns like we've seen, so many people have concerns about elections. They come to talk to, whoever, the commissioners or the clerk, and this is happening all around the country. Like, how do you view your role, handling these concerns that people might bring to you? So
that's the clerk's job, right? The clerk and recorder, their position is to answer the community's questions when it comes to the elections. We've got a ton of experience in that office right now with the elections director and the elections manager. The county clerk is supposed to work with community leaders, especially the ones that are bringing up the concerns, and address them in a way that is well within their authority.
Got it. And then we had just chatted a little bit beforehand, but what had happened with Jenna Griswold a while back. I just have to ask this, because people would want to know how you felt about it. When she said there's going to be no audits and all of that, like, what's your take on that situation?
So, in my opinion, Jenna Griswold is very partisan, and she views herself as the Democratic Secretary of State of Colorado, not the Secretary of State of Colorado or the Colorado Secretary of State. And when she announced that Colorado isn't going to have any audits, the problem with that is it's built into the system. We have the risk limiting audit that we do on every election. We have the ability to do a hand recount of an election, and that's also built in, and we can do an automatic hand recount. if there is enough issues that flag during the risk limiting audit. Counties themselves can do an internal audit of the cast vote record, and so we have audits built into our system, built into our policies. For her to go up there and say that we weren't going to do any audits, that was purely political. It was designed to reach out to her base and say, we're not going to do what they were doing in Arizona at the time. We're not going to do any of those audits. So it was all politically driven.
Got it. And then just, with the situation that happened, with the trusted build, but this is where a lot of the controversy has happened. In a similar situation, I guess if you were faced with that situation, what are some of the options that you've seen, that could legally be done to, deal with something you're wondering about, like with them coming to town and
so I think there's two different topics there. I think there's what I would have done, and then also what Tina could have done, what the current county clerk could have done. What I primarily would have done is when I was starting to be approached by people from outside of our county, outside of our state, about using me to get to the machines, I would have immediately had some concerns, and we have resources here in the county. I think that I would have started building my team with the county attorney and the county commissioners and started having an open conversation with them. But when you ask your own employees to leave the office or leave the room, that starts to raise some red flags. Now, with that said, if Tina Peters, or if you decide to go the way that Tina Peters decided to go, there's some couple things that she could have done to be within her authority. First and foremost, she was approached by some county officials and asked, should we do a hand recount of the 2020 election? And she said, no, it's safe, it's fine, no worries. And so that was immediately after the 2020 election. And then later on, when she was approached and later convinced that the machines were doing something nefarious, I would have gone to the county attorney and I would have said, what is our legal recourse? Can we sue the state to stop the update? Can we sue the state and ask them to give us a before and after of the forensic image? What are our legal options here? And from what I understand, that those weren't explored. And lastly, if she had no other recourse, if there was no legal option to pursue, she could have said, we're not going to meet the terms of the Secretary of State. And we've seen the emails that say it has to be an election worker, it has to, we can't have any cameras in there, XYZ thing. Just if you wanted to hold their feet to the fire, just say, we're not going to meet those terms, move on to the next county. And there probably would have been a lawsuit. The state and the county probably would have been going back and forth with legal battles, but it would have basically been within the authority of the county clerk to do that. Personally, I feel like there are probably some legal recourses they could have pursued to satisfy the concerns of the people.
Got it. And then just in general, since this entire thing happened, you've been in there, like you said, helping with the hand count and helping with this last, the primary election. Like, what changes have you seen so far that the office has already started to change, just from all the pressure and questions?
There's a few things I can say right off the bat. First and foremost, those that have concerns about Wi-Fi connection. A lot of our machines have been replaced, all the ones that had any hard drive or hardware ability to connect to Wi-Fi, even though they were turned off during the election. All those machines have been replaced and there's no longer any hardware connection. And we can show you this as well during every single LAT. When we turn on the machines and calibrate them, we do show that there isn't even an option to turn on Wi-Fi capability. And then on top of that, we've even gone into the room, well, I shouldn't say we, that team that's in that office has gone in that room and covered all of the Wi-Fi or the Ethernet cable connections, the wall outlets for that. So that was one of the major changes that that office made. Another change is because there's a lot of community concern, they've been inviting the community to come out to things that before wasn't really optional for the public. So for example, the LAT or the logic and accuracy test, people are now able to come out and observe that. You can come in and observe the RLA, the risk limiting audit as well. Basically anything that the county is doing as far as elections are concerned, they are opening it up to the public, and you can ask questions at those events.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I think transparency, and openness and bringing people in and showing them, answering questions is a great thing. And then like, what changes would you make, like moving forward? Like how much better, would you make the office?
There is no perfect system out there, and so we can always strive for a more perfect system. I think one of the things that we can do is, there's some concerns out there about camera quality, observing the ballot boxes. I think that we can improve that camera quality and make it to where we are getting a good snapshot of the people that are turning in ballots, so that way we can help combat some of the concerns with ballot harvesting. I think when it comes to transparency, the county clerk themselves can take a more active approach to connecting with community leaders and addressing concerns that they bring up, and inviting more and more watchers, more judges, and getting more of the community involved in this process to alleviate those concerns. And again, like I said, there's always more things, minute things that we can always improve on. It's an ever improving process, and we can always strive for a more perfect system.
Got it. Yeah, like voter rolls. I mean, this is just a big one that it comes up often. Like, how are you feeling about our voter rolls in Colorado overall?
From what I understand, I don't like our system for how we add and eliminate inactive voters on our voter rolls. So to explain this a little bit, it used to be when we first started this system, there was a difference between active voters and inactive voters. If you had missed 2 general elections, so let's say you missed the 2020 election and then you missed the 2022 election, then you're put into inactive status. Now all that means is that you're no longer receiving a ballot in the mail. And what that does is that helps eliminate things like people who have died out of state and didn't get processed through the Colorado registry in that way, people who moved out of state and didn't tell anyone, or if you just simply lost interest in being an active voter and you don't want to receive ballots anymore. Right now, as it sits, in order for you they've passed laws since they came up with the voter system, that in order for you to be put into inactive status, we have to get a return to sender, meaning your ballot gets mailed out to your old address, and then whoever lives there says they don't live here anymore and sends it back. Or if you do a forwarded ballot as well, the ballots can't be forwarded through the USPS. So then that would be a return to sender as well. So that will put you into an inactive status. But that also requires that person that receives your ballot to say, okay, I'm going to put this back in the box, and not just, I'm going to put this in the trash.
Right.
The other way you can be put as an inactive voter right now is if you call in and ask to become an inactive voter. So what that leaves us with is an overrepresentation of how many active voters there are on our voter rolls. That means that we're spending more money than we should be sending out ballots to inactive voters, people that we know aren't going to be voting, or people that should be removed off the list. And so we can clean that up. Now, at the county clerk's level, that process is hard. One of the things that we've done is sent out mailers to all the registered voters, and if we get a return to sender at that point, that helps us. We've also made some ground, I think, with the Tabor refund check, because it's based off of the voter rolls. People are starting to make their voter registration a little bit more accurate. People are registering that otherwise wouldn't before, or they're making sure that their addresses are where they can receive the mail.
Gotta get their money.
Right, they gotta get that money. So that's helped. But mostly where it's gonna be solved is in the legislature. And I know that the Colorado County Clerks Association was against this law that was passed. And I think, I've got a good relationship with our current representatives, Janice Rich, Matt Soper, and I want to build those relationships up so that way we can introduce legislation and work and testify to why our current system is doing a disservice to us.
So that is something that I feel like comes up often, is people, we don't know the difference between what the county can do and what has already been through the legislature that the state controls.
Yeah.
And if if we can somehow let people know, like, this is what we're doing different, like, even if the state doesn't fix that, we're still doing all of this, you know what I mean? Like, then people can have more confidence locally, at least.
Yeah.
You know?
And, I think most counties, the public announcements are probably flowing a little bit easier. It's really hard right now that we don't have a county clerk because that's part of their job. It's really difficult for the elections director or the elections manager to step out from their duties and go above and beyond to reach out to those community members. So a lot of our transparency is a passive transparency,
Right.
and I want to be more active with that and making sure that we're reaching out to our community members, making it more public, and just advertising what we are doing a lot better.
Got it. And then final question. I've spoken to the commissioners about this just because I was curious, and they've said that if the public would like, they will still do a hand recount of the 2020 election, of the municipal election, or the primary election that we just had. And the money just has to be raised, basically, So is that something, you would be put in office like right around that time, January.
Yep.
So if you're put in office, is that something that you're supporting or would support?
I would support it if people's concerns would be alleviated. I know that the county did a survey of county residents, and of the people that had concerns about the 2020 election, they asked if their concerns would be alleviated if they did a hand recount. Unfortunately, a majority of those people said no. So it does beg the question, what do you want to see? What would alleviate these concerns? And I invite people that are watching this, what are some of the things that you would like to see the county do to alleviate your concerns with the 2020 election, so that way we can satisfy any issues that make you unsure about the security of your election here in Mesa County. We can't speak for anything outside the state.
Right.
Can't speak for anything even necessarily outside the county. But we can do what we can to shore up our system here in Mesa County.
Got it. Well, I think that's the majority of what I have here today. We got some other videos to do, but I sure appreciate you coming out.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me here.
Definitely.
Anytime that you guys want to ask me questions, I'm all ears.
Yep. Cool.